Good morning, class 12. Welcome to yet another session of political science. Now, in continuation to our topic, that is the chapter Planning and Development, we are going to discuss about various topics like the Bombay Plan and the People's Plan, and then we will try to understand that what is the concept of planning and how the Planning Commission of India was established, with what features and with what functions. So let us begin with, first and foremost, let us talk about the Bombay Plan. This Bombay Plan was an initiative taken by industrialists of our country like G.D. Birla, and these industrialists, they all had gathered in Bombay, and they had devised a plan which was including plans for better economy for our country. Moreover, it divided industries in basically two categories, and these were the basic industries and the consumption goods industries. So these industries were now to be taken up as basic industries, as well as insurance companies were sought to be brought under the state ownership. So this Bombay Plan envisaged the doubling of per capita income within 15 years, and moreover this Bombay Plan was an initiative by the industrialists to make the future leadership aware of their demands and expectations in a free India. So that is why they invited Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru as the chief guest, and later on it became a tradition concept that the Prime Minister would be the head of the Planning Commission of the country. One more notion is there, that this entire concept of planning was initiated by Government of India, but as you see that this Bombay Plan was not initiated by the Government of India, rather it was an independent approach or initiative of the industrialists of our country. So then let us talk about the People's Plan. This People's Plan was initiated by M.N. Roy in 1945, who was a radical humanist, and he emphasized that nationalization of land should be brought into practice, and there should be elimination of rural indebtedness. That means abolition of this zamindari system. So according to him, industries would have to be controlled now by the state for the greater good of the common people. Now let us talk about the Planning Commission. This Planning Commission of India was being set up in the year 1950. In which year? 1950. And it was under the leadership or chairmanship of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Other than him, there were others also. There is a notion, there is a practice that there would be a deputy chairman who would be basically a person who has profound knowledge in the field of economists, or who's basically an economist, and other than that 10 to 12 members are also incorporated there. So at that time 5 to 6 ministers were there, like the ministers of human resource development, like the minister of finance, like the home minister of that time, and minister of agriculture, as well as state planning. So it keeps on changing according to the requirements. Now what is planning? To go for the literal meaning of planning, we can say planning refers to any attempt to achieve a particular goal. It can be mostly for the economic well-being or of the utilization of the resources under central direction. That means this entire concept flows in from a hierarchy of central planning, and then it is decentralized on various levels, but the center or the union plays an important role for the decisions in context of the Planning Commission, which is aimed for 5 years. Now what was the role and function of this commission? Let us discuss that. The role and function of this commission was inspired by the directive principles of the state policy, and it basically aimed to make an assessment of our country's resources. As you all are very well aware that when Britishers were there, all our resources were harnessed by them, and we the Indians, we the people of the country could not make profits from our own resources. So first an assessment was to be made that in what areas, what natural resources the country has, and how to formulate the plans secondly for the utilization of these resources. Then on the third level, it was to determine the priorities of the country, of the economy, accordingly keeping the foreign policy in mind and future perspectives also in mind. Last but not the least, to evaluate the progress made during this plan period of 5 years, and then to make amends further if the plan was a success or there were certain demerits or loopholes in that particular plan. Now, let us talk about central and state budgets. There are two types of budgets initiated by the center to the state. One goes under the heading of non-planned budget. For example, natural hazards. Suppose there is a calamity, natural calamity, or there is a volcanic eruption or landslides or anything which occurs naturally, natural phenomena which is out of control. Okay, so these all fall under the category of non-planned budget. Then we have the planned budget. Now these are certain areas where the government is already aware or well aware that okay, these are the areas where we need to work on, or where we need to increase our expenditure or regulate the expenditure, and so on. So these two categories are there to be kept in mind by the national level or the union level or the central planning commission. Then let us talk about the first 3 5-year plans. If we talk about the first 5-year plan, the main economist involved here in devising the first 5-year plan was Mr. K.N. Raj, and the first 5-year plan totally emphasized on the upbringing and betterment of the areas of agriculture. So you can say that this plan was a totally agro based plan. Now what happened, as we are well aware that India was an agro based country, so excessive emphasis on agriculture which already was there in practice did not help us out, and the expected GDP through this first 5-year plan could not be attained. So the GDP limit set by the first 5-year plan could not be attained because the government of India was under a notion that okay, people would be saving also, and the savings will help to increase the gross national produce or gross national income. But this could not happen because industries were very limited and employment could not be generated. Moreover, our country was already suffering with the problem of this zamindari system. So people did not have, or rather peasants did not have land to cultivate, and the cultivational practices were also very traditional. New approaches or scientific approaches or use of pesticides and insecticides were not that much into practice, specifically if you talk in the rural areas. Then let us talk about the second 5-year plan. This second 5-year plan amended the mistake made in the first 5-year plan. Now what was that mistake? That mistake was that we had neglected industries. So overemphasis was made on the development of industries. And who was the economist here? Mr. P.C. Mahlanobis, who is also known for his remarkable work worldwide. He was involved in the drafting of the second 5-year plan. Now what happened? When overemphasis on industries was laid, again there was a question for the agricultural area, that this area got neglected. So ultimately what happened? Ultimately, the third 5-year plan was an amendment of both these mistakes. of industries were also incorporated equally, so that a better growth of the GDP can be achieved. So this was remarkable about the second 5-year plan. Now, one by one, I am telling you few things more about these plans. First and foremost, the first 5-year plan worked for the abolition of the zamindari system. The second 5-year plan, it emphasized that industries should be set up for machines should be set up for making more machines. And what was the most outstanding thing about the third 5-year plan, that it was aiming on self-sufficiency in context of food grains, then expansion of employment opportunities, then expanding basic industries like the steel industry, chemical industry, and so on. And when we talk about industries, one remarkable thing, that India was supported by USSR in this technological know-how. USA, on which we have placed our democracy, we have taken up the role model of USA for our democracy. But rather than USA, USSR was extending help to Indians. And the third thing was that expanding basic industries and fuel as and power as well. So basically, what happened during this time, Chinese aggression of 1962 took place, and because of this war with Pakistan, everything crumbled down, and a systematic growth could not be registered, though the planning was done in a more appropriate and more accurate manner. So three factors, if I talk about, which delayed the finalization of our fourth 5-year plans, were that there was a war with Pakistan in 1965, then there were two droughts one by one successively registered in our countries, which was severe, and then general rise in prices and erosion of resources that were available. That was also one hampering factors. But last and not the least, that between 1966 to 69, 3 annual plans were formulated. That means they were designed for 1 year only, and within the framework of the draft outline of the fourth 5-year plan. So they were afterwards brought under the guidelines of the fourth 5-year plan. So thank you so much. This much for today. For a better understanding, read your textbooks. Thank you.